We are back inside of Helldivers, and this one did not go down as planned, since at this point we are all but assured of failing the current major order. And what's really wild about this whole situation is that it may have been avoided if we had a bit more intel from Helldivers HQ. Welcome back to the channel. This is LtBuzzLitebeer, and today we've got this really late transmission from Arrowhead concerning this major order, along with a player base that has some pretty strong opinions on both sides of this argument. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know I'm going to have thoughts on all of this as well. Thanks for your continued support. Hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to stay up to date on all my latest uploads. And hey, we've got an awesome sponsor for today's video. AFK Journey is the ethereal fantasy RPG follow-up to AFK Arena, featuring a distinctive art style, intricate gameplay mechanics, and the added dimension of a PC-compatible side-scrolling element. Create your ideal character through the customization system and then begin your adventures as Merlin, tasked with gathering faction heroes and honing your battlefield skills. AFK Journey's Hex Battle map allows players to freely set up their hero lineups while exploring big maps, solving puzzles, and even reuniting with beloved characters from AFK Arena. While in-game, you can take advantage of the upgraded social features that allow for squad-ups with guildmates or randomly matchmake as you make your way through dungeons or a ton of side gameplay like the Arcane Labyrinth. AFK Journey is now available on iOS, Google Store for mobile, and on the AFK Journey official website for PC, and the best part is it's free to everyone. Now, during the official release, players can also get all heroes for free, including epics, along with free pulls for game progression and events like the 7-day login. Also, you can redeem my code, AFKJourney88, found down in the description, for a bunch of in-game giveaways, and thank you to AFK Journey for sponsoring this video. Alright, very quickly, today's daily order for 15 medals is to complete 6 mission sub-objectives, which is honestly pretty straightforward. And as always, I've included chapters. They're up and in place to help out your overall viewing experience. Alright, next up is the biggie topic, the imminent failure of the current major order, which is now sitting at what, 21 to 22 hours to go until 0 hour? And I'm going to be taking a look at some of the arguments being tossed around in just a moment, as well as weighing in with my thoughts on it all. But at this point, the Severin sector and the liberation of Tibet is effectively over. We just don't have enough time. Now, yesterday, we had Ubania sitting at nearly 96% liberated. We were in the last few hours of knocking that one out, and then it was going to be onwards to Tibet when the wheels just fell off and the chaos began. And I've received multiple DMs asking me exactly what in the hell happened, because I know many of you out there were genuinely baffled. I got messages that were all basically echoing the same byline. Hey, I was over on Ubania with my mates, we were crushing out the missions, and then all of a sudden, we couldn't access the planet anymore. Why? What happened? And the answer to that riddle is Dropnir. Not exactly a 100% exact explanation, and it's a bit more in-depth than that, but it boils down to the fact that Joel, while we were burning Ubania to the ground, simultaneously started a defense campaign on Dropnir and the Tsar sector. There was no mention of it in the major order tab, nothing like, beware of the automatons counterattack in the Tsar sector, you know, something like that. But since there was nothing, most players, I wouldn't say the vast majority of players, but a lot of them really didn't see it happening until it was too late and we eventually lost Dropnir. Now, since we lost control of Dropnir, and since Helldivers operates on a series of supply lines, which are displayed nowhere in-game, we then lost access to Ubania, leaving us with a slog to retake Dropnir, so we could again get access to Ubania, and then hopefully onwards to Tibet. And, you know, we simply don't have enough time to do it all in the next 22-ish hours. This also led to an all-too-late Galactic War update from Spitz in the Helldivers Discord, which only a fraction of the player base has access to. And, you know, there's a lot here, but this last bit here spells it all out. This has resulted in the worst possible outcome for our forces. As Dropnir fell, Ubania stood at 95% liberated and would have required another few hours to be completed. Had our forces decided earlier what to do, or alternatively managed to sway more of the roughly 35% of Helldivers active on the Terminid front, then today would have been a cause for celebration. But victories need to be earned in order to be meaningful, and victory has not been earned this day. Our task is now to retake Dropnir to enable FTL lines to Ubania before the automatons can shore up defenses and repopulate their losses. This setback will prove to be significant and may compromise the major order if Dropnir and Ubania are not retaken quickly. Spitz also goes on to make mention of the amount of Helldivers on Malevolent Creek and how 35% of our entire force was actually on the other side of the galaxy, taking on those bugs, sparking a fracture of the player base into either bug divers or creek crawlers. Yeah, no lie. That's what they're called according to many Reddit posts. So, this whole thing metastasized into the perfect storm of failure. But it's important to point out the deficiencies so we can avoid them in the future, starting off with supply lines. Not every Helldiver is an avid reader on Reddit. They aren't all a part of the Helldiver Discord, which is currently capped, so you can't even get in. They aren't combing over Twitter or watching daily updates on YouTube. The average Helldiver just logs in daily and tries to do their part for democracy, and without the valuable information of knowing exactly what has to be liberated to open up the next portion and so on, these players are just going in blind. We shouldn't have to log into helldivers.io to understand how the pathing works. By the way, that's a valuable resource right there, and I highly recommend it. And so the game design, that lack of visible supply lines, that lack of updates in the dispatches, it needs to be called out for what it is. It's grossly deficient because players, not all, but a lot, were doing exactly what the major order told them to do, and they actually got cut out because of faulty intel from HQ. Now, I have no way of confirming this, so just take this with a pinch of salt. Just my 2 cents here, but it almost felt like Game Master Joel saw us blitzing through the Severin sector. He could see that we were going to blow up Ubania and then onwards to Tibet, and he decided to drop in this mysterious Dropnir defense in the dead of night with no notifications, just to kind of slow us down. Because, and hear me out here, I'd like to know how the automatons actually got to Dropnir. I mean, if the Helldivers controlled every planet in the Tsar sector, and we controlled every surrounding sector, even showing a pretty healthy lead in the assault on Malevolent Creek. Where did they come from, and how did they manage to make it to Dropnir, assuming that supply lines work in the exact same manner for the automatons as it does for the Helldivers? Food for thought right there. There was also this further clarification as to how and what missions you were doing and how they correlated to liberation percentages. Again, nowhere listed in game, as Spitz explained that just blasting through on trivial difficulty is no longer effective. Now, liberation is based on XP, so the higher difficulty you tackle times the amount of objectives and side objectives is going to net you higher levels of XP, which does more to help out the liberation cause. Spending more time in the missions, hitting those out-of-the-way areas and hotspots now actually helps your XP, which not everyone knew or knows about. So those old ways of spamming easy difficulty missions, just hitting the main objectives and extracting, are no longer the approved method. So at this point, we've identified a real lack of in-game intel. And as I said, we shouldn't have to consult outside sites to get the real picture of a major campaign. We've also got Helldivers spread across the galaxy, some because they had no idea what was actually going down, and some because because they chose to go to a different planet. You've also got changes to Liberation XP, which I can't remember seeing displayed anywhere in the game. And then you've got the bots, the clankers, the oil cans themselves, the automatons. Now, I'm currently running a poll in my channel's community tab, and after about 2 hours and well over 4,000 votes, Helldivers are definitively saying that in a 4-to-1 ratio, they really don't like the automatons. And naturally, if you're going to log on to play a game, i.e. you're going to log on to have fun, you're going to seek out that fun. And what this poll says is that players really don't like the left side of that galaxy map. At this point, I'm going to speak from personal experiences. I have a decent amount of playtime right now in Helldivers, and the automatons have a few areas in their programming that are just so bad and unbalanced that it leads to players avoiding them outright. Namely, their insane range, their aim, their unbalanced damage output, and their sight. And I'll explain that one in just a moment. Now, whereas the bugs need to be in a bit closer to attack you, automatons, even the lowly ground troops, can peg you with sniper-like accuracy from extreme ranges, sometimes from what feels like miles away. Rocket devastators, oh man, they are what they are. I've seen them bend rocket volleys over the tops of hills and around corners and cover to hit me. I've been wearing heavy armor with a shield generator pack, and oftentimes it's a one-shot kill if I get hit with one of their blasts. But the area that really affects the overall gameplay experience, at least for me, versus the automatons, is their sight. And let me explain this statement. I've been planetside in a driving rainstorm with fog and mist to the point of barely being able to see a few feet in front of me. I can't see anything, and I'm pretty sure nothing can see me, but you know, out of nowhere, in comes a rocket attack or some huge turret blast me off my feet, and I'm orbited clear across the map. It's maddening. There's no laser pointer, there's no indications showing where they're aiming at or where the attacks are coming from. It's just insta-death. Which is why a lot of players prefer to stay on the right side of the galaxy map, even when the major order is versus the oil cans on the left. Now, to be clear, I'm not asking for this game to be made easier. Far from it. I love the challenge, and there's always the ability to tune it down a bit with the difficulty settings, but clearly, the automatons are busted, severely busted in several key areas, and because of how broken they are, players avoid them like the plague. Also, for me, just making a mental note here, I tend to see more janky things happening when I'm taking on the bots. For instance, 12 hell bombs needed to destroy a single objective, as there always is this single little shack left over that they just can't seem to level even when they land on top of it. I mean, that's just one example. Although, blasting a full automaton dropship from the air and watching the twisted metal coming down on a squad of bots never gets old. I love that. But, you know, specifics aside, this was a failure of the highest order, and we really need this to be modified and changed for the future. More accurate in-game alerts and easy to understand feedback is badly needed, not just through third-party sites. We also need some outlier tuning for these automaton issues, not to make them easier to kill, but more predictable to counter. Anyways, I probably carried on a bit too long with this one, but I didn't want to go full sodium mode for the video, but I'm not going to lie, I invested a ton of time into this major order, and it really stings to see it all lost because of the issues I just spelled out. Remember to hit subscribe and ring that notifications bell to receive my upload alerts. All my social links can be found in the video description, including an open invite link to my awesome and growing Helldivers community Discord server. A huge thanks to the nearly 213,000 of you that have taken the plunge and hit subscribe. You are all legends. And until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.